have some London girls here.
Hello.
Maisey, who you guys know, and Emily. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having us.
I'm
This
so
is
excited.
such a lovely way to end our trip. Yeah.
I know, truly. I mean, just for context, y'all, we were sitting on my back porch the other day chatting. We had such an amazing chat. Then a bee almost took us out, and
Yes.
Emily's allergic to bees, which I didn't know at the time. Which you didn't even mention. You were so
bee
low key
stings.
about that.
Well, yeah. Once I got stung, I had a welly on, which is
welly?
like
Welly boot.
A
sorry,
welly
for
boot.
context.
Sorry.
It's like a walking boot.
Yeah,
We
like
call
your
them
Wellington
wellies.
boots.
It started already.
What you wear when you're in when it's raining. But I was wearing one at a Christian conference, and a bee went in my boot, stung me, and then my leg blew up, and then they had to cut the boot off me.
No, are you kidding me?
I just swell up. It's not
Well,
that.
you really were chill because I was like, we should go inside because there's a bee.
I'm actually so chill around bees, like, because I remember someone telling me you just have to be still, and so then I just sit still because I'm like, I would rather you just float around, give me some attention, and then leave than sting me.
Give me some attention.
Like, hey,
This is one of the best things about traveling and doing life with Emily is that there's never a dull moment. She's the best storyteller. There's always a story. Like a bee got in my welly, and that makes no sense to America.
Okay, what is really funny about this is that, so there were some other girls from London here who I adore. We had coffee together too. And you know, it's really funny because we speak English, but there's a lot of differences in things that we say. One of the things that they were saying, which I learned from you, was, which I'm going to botch it, cheeky snoggy.
Oh, a cheeky
No,
snog.
that is
Sneaky,
so
what's it?
cheeky snog.
A cheeky snog.
That's
Everyone,
cheek. That is
for
quite
5
cheeky.
seconds, think to yourself, what do you think a cheeky snog is? Okay, now share the results.
This feels naughty to say. It's just like I feel this feels naughty. It's just like a kiss.
A kiss with someone maybe you shouldn't.
A kiss with when you're in a committed relationship.
Well, what was so funny is our friend was telling us this, and she was telling it to my friends. So Sarah, Gracie, and Lainey are there.
Yeah.
They didn't know what this was. So she was in the middle of telling us about how her and her boyfriend started dating. And she was like, and there was a cheeky snog in the church. And we thought she meant, like, everyone thought she meant there was someone in there who was, like, there was someone in their church who was rude to them. Like there was someone who was, like, snobby.
That was a cheeky snog.
Like, she was cheeky and snobby. And then I was like, that doesn't mean that. They were kissing in the church, which is funny. And then she was like, I fancied a few boys before him. Like, I fancied.
I fancied, yeah.
I wish we said stuff like
I have
that.
like crushes, fancies.
Yeah.
And then
that's what you
she
like somebody.
kept saying, like, that things were lovely, but it
Oh,
would
we
be
say
like
lovely a
something
lot.
very chill. And I love that.
I kept saying, oh my golly, and everyone at conference would go, oh golly.
Oh,
I
golly.
always say, oh my golly, instead of oh my gosh.
I love it. We're going to pick up on some of these things, and we might need
Yes.
some pause and
Yeah,
define what that is along the way.
Dictionary.
But yes, everyone in America obviously loves the British accent. So people are already just tuned into this podcast and loving everything we're talking about.
Yes.
But tell us, like, you guys are living in London, which is such a dream destination, one of my favorite places that we get to travel to. So tell us, what is a typical day in London for you guys look like?
Well, Maisie's is crazy because you actually walk past Buckingham Palace every day on her way to work.
Wow.
Yes,
The king lives.
I know. So I just moved back to England. So I've been living in America for such a long time. And it's so interesting because I would have never thought that my next move to England, I would be in the centre of London. I work in the centre of London right now. So I was just praying that in the right timing I'd get to come back. But now I'm literally in the centre, walking past the palace every day.
Wow.
So my everyday is where people travel from across the world to come and see.
Wow.
And right outside of where the office is that I work, you walk down the street and you can stand on this golden plaque, and it signifies the center of the city. So I can see Trafalgar Square, all of the places that tourists would go. So my day-to-day life, you just can't make it up. It's like this extraordinary daily, just on my lunch break, just go and walk to the palace, or go and watch the changing of the guards, which is on a Wednesday, and you can go see all the guards, the king's guards.
Wow.
It's so cool, yeah.
We're going to circle back to that later because you told me a bit about just how God even has been speaking to you about being in the center of London, because even though it's so many people's dream to live in London. It's such a huge move for you, which is really hard. Any transition, any move for anyone is tough. And so just what God's been speaking. So we'll circle back. Emily, tell us a little bit about what your days look like.
My days, well, I do social media full time. So my days are a lot of going out with girls in London, getting brunches, taking pictures out on the streets. It's like the classic, like I do like fashion stuff. So we stand on a street awkwardly and take photos of our outfits, which is like, oh, that is like, imagine telling someone from like Joseph's era, like the Egyptians. Imagine telling an Egyptian, girls stand on the street and they take pictures, or like a Victorian child, like, and they stand on the street, they take a picture, they post it, and then like that's their job. They're like up a chimney sweeping, and I'm like, well, my job is I take pictures of my clothes. Like, how would they react? I would love to one day go back in time and tell them.
That really is actually funny to think about. I always think about that with people in the Bible. I mean, this is very convicting, but I think about that if Paul was like learning about social media and he was like
happy with me.
Yeah, he'd be like, oh, so you have access to share the message of Jesus to this many people at any time you want by just pressing the button. Were y'all at the hub? Y'all were at the hub, and Dad's whole message about how much Paul moved and how he went here and he went there and then he was sailing here, like how much he had to physically get up and go to get the message out, and we like have access. It really is crazy. But you are sharing the gospel. You are merging faith and fashion in a way that not many people are doing, and it's really epic. So I want to dive into all that. But you guys, one thing about London that's pretty cool, you guys walk like most everywhere.
It's been so weird driving here.
It is interesting. In America, this has been, I don't want to speak to generalize, but most times if you go on a walk, you get in the car and you drive somewhere to walk. But in England, I will just walk to the station, walk to work, walk to go get lunch, and I check my phone. I've done 10,000 steps. You just don't even think about it. It's completely different culture.
You have to like work to get 10,000 steps here.
Yeah, you see so many TikToks, and the girls are like, "How I keep my physique: 10,000 steps a day. Come down to the beach with me." And I'm like, "What do you mean you have to go down to like? What do you mean you're making it happen?" I'm like, do you not just do it? Like, is that just not happening? And they're like, I drive to the gym and then I go down to the beach. I do my 10K steps, do Pilates. I'm like, go. Like, just
Your
walk to the gym and you'll do it.
So it's very
Which,
good.
by the way, Maisey got us a Paddington book and I was reading it to Honey, and Honey then wanted me to read it like Maisey, which was a challenge, but I think I did pretty good. But then she upped the challenge and said, now read it like Emily. And so I got my accent a little bit more uppity and I crushed it. And she was actually like, whoa, that was pretty good. So I'm working on my accent as well. Super excited about it. But
That means a lot to us.
I love London. I love the culture. I love the walking everywhere. One thing that is funny too about you guys that's different than Americans is when we go on a walk, we wear like athletic clothes.
Leisure.
Y'all never wear athletic clothes. You always look cute.
Yeah. We wear like, I'd wear what I wear every day. If I'm going on a hike, like I'm going up the mountain, I'm going to wear my Salomons and I'm going to wear my, like an Arc'teryx. But if I'm going on just a walk, that's just a normal day.
I love it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
When I was in London, I was very inspired by, like, most people wear cute outfits and piece it all together fun. And I'm like, okay, wow, I can take some of this back to America. This is a good thing. So anyways, I just love your culture. I love everything about it. I'm super glad y'all are here to dive into all of this. Okay, let's be honest, sister. Shopping for men in our lives can be so tough. So whether that's your dad, a husband, a brother, they usually have no idea what they want. It's not helpful, but y'all, I finally found something that they actually love. Performance shirts from Poncho Outdoors. This is a win for all you women out there. These aren't your average button-ups. Poncho makes every shirt for men in all kinds of styles. They're like denim, flannel, western, and ultra light. My dad has been literally living in poncho shirts lately. He wears one fishing, running errands, golfing, and somehow still looks totally put together by dinner. And that's saying something about my dad. Poncho really saved his fashion game. They fit great, hold their shape, and look good anywhere. And the details are so thoughtful, like a sunglasses loop, a hidden zipper pocket, and even a microfiber cloth sewn into the hem. And let me tell you, men love this kind of stuff. Plus, Poncho offers free shipping, returns, and exchanges so that you can be sure they'll have the perfect fit. Actually funny, this Sunday at church, our pastor made a joke about poncho because he was wearing a poncho shirt and he was like, why am I wearing this? Because all the cool pastors wear this and I was influenced. So poncho is definitely like the gift to give right now. You will not regret it. Christian has some shirts that he loves from them. My dad, our pastor, I mean, it's really for everyone. Poncho's got a bunch of great styles, like I mentioned, the original Western denim, ultralight. You can get them in short or long sleeves, regular or slim fit, and in a lot of colors and patterns. If you've been looking for the perfect shirt, something breathable, fits great, feels even better, and stands out in a good way, give Poncho a try. Go to ponchooutdoors.com/whoa for $10 off your first order. That's Poncho Outdoors, PONCHO outdoors.com/whoa for $10 off and free shipping. Go try one out. Maisey, let's talk a little bit about you moving back to London, because when you were on the podcast last, you were living here, then you got to move back home for a bit, which I know was so special. And what was God doing in your heart to call you all the way back to London while your family's here?
Yes. So it's been a long journey, and I never really knew when people said, where's home for you? I'm sure lots of girls can relate to this. You know, their dad might be in the military, or they've had parents who've had to move around a lot. Maybe they've grown up in a missionary family. You sort of grow up and you're like, where's home for me? When people ask me, where's home to you? I would sit and think, I actually don't know, because I am British. That's my citizenship. But I've lived so much of my life in America. So never quite knew where am I from? Where do I belong? Where do I see my life going? Where am I, if I get married one day, where do I see myself settling down? So when I was in university in Chicago, these were questions I was asking. Where do I see myself going? Where do I want to lay down roots? Because I've had this privileged problem of getting to live in 5 different states and so many places, 3 countries. But yeah, actually, there's a certain point where you think, I want to lay down roots somewhere. I want to belong somewhere. And someone told me that you bear a certain kind of fruit when you're rooted somewhere. So it's not a bad thing to be called to lots of different places, but there's a certain fruit, yes, when you can be known by a community and you walk with them and you can put roots down. So I remember being in college, and I woke up one morning and there was a census that came out in England. And the headline read, Christianity is now the minority faith in England. And I did not expect to have this reaction, but I burst out crying, which completely surprised me, because before I had moved to America, when I went to boarding school, high school in England, I was the girl. I went to a Hindu festival and I completely rejected my faith. I genuinely in my mind was thinking, how am I going to keep relationship with people because I'm not going to be a Christian? I had decided that I was going to, completely change my life. And so what a contrast from living in England, literally going into a gathering of another faith and other gods, to then sitting, reading that headline and being grieved that that Christianity was now the minority faith. And even here I wrote down some statistics. So in 2001, when I was 1 year old, were you 1 as well?
No, I was 0.
Oh, that's so cute. So in 2001, 71.7% of the population identified as Christian.
Wow.
In 2011, so this is in England.
Wow.
In 2011, 59.3% identified as Christian. In 2021, 46.2% of the UK population identified as Christian.
Wow.
And the decrease of that, so that in 2021, the decrease, if you look at the age demographic, it's the younger generations who are deciding, I don't identify as a Christian, or I don't identify with any faith. And so, I don't think I understood then, but that visceral response of crying for like a week, I could not stop crying. I almost had this moment, which I now know was the Holy Spirit. I believe it was this whisper inside of me of, this is, you have to follow the tears. Follow the tears. If you're reading something about an injustice, or you're reading about a problem and it sparks emotion in you, follow that. Don't ignore that. Follow the tears. And so for me, it was a really simple but long process of following the tears. And then I graduated university and I was in a prayer room. And that night, which is so interesting now, I'm just remembering this, that night was the night that our friendship started.
Wow.
So we had met very briefly, I think, before, but that was really the night our friendship started. We were in the prayer room and we had this conversation about England and faith. And I remember thinking, I'd love to be friends with this girl. Like, I live in America, but I hope we get to keep in contact. So crazy, actually, now she's sitting next to me. But we were sitting in this prayer room, and this girl was doing a drawing at the front. She's doing what's called like a prophetic drawing. Sometimes in churches, people will do a painting or something. And so she was doing this drawing, and I wasn't paying that much attention. But then at the end of the night, I saw that it was a windmill, and I thought, that's so funny, because I was just visiting England for a little bit of the summer. When I landed, I went straight to a windmill, and my godfather said to me, Maisey, God's going to bring you home to England one day.
Wow.
And then I'm in this prayer room, and this girl's drawing a windmill, and I thought, that's so interesting.
Wow.
So I walked up to it, and I was looking at it, and the girl came up to me and she said, does this resonate? And I said, well, I don't know if it resonates, but I just landed and went to a windmill, so I thought this was really cool. And she said, actually, I want you to know that God's been highlighting you to me the whole worship night. He wants you to know, she didn't know anything about me. She said, she wants you to know the winds are changing and God is going to bring you home.
Whoa.
She didn't know I lived in America.
Whoa.
And so she says this to me, and she says, but you're going to have to give up control because you're holding on to the control. You want to know how it's going to be. You want to know the timing. This is in 2023.
Wow.
But God's got the timing. You need to trust him. And it's going to be something you feel, and the job that God's going to invite you into, you're going to feel so unqualified. It's going to be so different to what you're doing. And for context, I was working with children, doing homeschooling, tutoring, nannying. And fast forward now, it's a very long story, but fast forward now, it was a long time of waiting, so many doors closing. There was a sudden moment where so quickly the doors opened and it was time to come home. And there's a verse that says that the doors in which God opens, no man can shut.
Wow.
And the doors that God shuts, no man can open. And I felt that way when he opened the door and it was time to come back. I actually was loving my life in California. I loved my church. I finally found the right friends. Like, I just hit this sweet spot. I loved my job. But it was time to come home. The winds were changing.
Wow.
And I got invited to do, I actually interviewed and was able to do a job that was exactly like the word said, so different to what I thought I would do. So I felt so unqualified, but God spoke it. And every day since then, he's qualified me for what I needed for every single day. So different to what I was doing before. And I think, just to wrap it up, I think I would love to read this if this is okay.
Please do.
So there's an MP, so he's a member of Parliament. His name's Danny Kruger, and he is an incredible man of faith. So in England, it's not a badge of honor, and it's not popular to be a Christian. If you say you're a Christian, you mean it. If you go to church, I think you want to be there. It's not that culture where I just go because it's culture. I think just my perspective is it is costly to be seen as a Christian in England.
When I was there, I felt that everybody who went to church was on fire, sold out. Because if statistics are 46.2% and it's a minority, you're not going because it's cool. You're not going because it's just what you do on a Sunday. You're going, it comes with a cost, and you're going because you really have encountered the Lord. And that's what it seemed like. So I loved church culture there because it was smaller than the churches here, but it was on fire. It was very exciting.
Beautiful.
It was very exciting, but I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just experienced that when we were there.
No, but that's good because we've grown up in England, so to hear your perspective, I mean, that's so encouraging. That's what you picked up on, because we feel that too.
It was incredible. It's like Sunday service was one of my favorites ever because it actually felt like the church and looked like the church that you'd see in Acts. Like there was space for prayer, space for if the Lord was speaking a word, just reading of the scripture after the sermon was done. It was just so like what the church should look like, in my opinion, because it looked a lot like Acts, and I feel like our churches should model what the early church, launched and began. It should prayer, scripture, words, space for God to actually move. It wasn't like as programmed as we experience here. And everyone there, just, you could tell they went because they wanted to be there. So that was very refreshing. It was very refreshing. We were teary-eyed. It was beautiful.
It's beautiful.
What was your quote, Maze?
Oh, so it's by Danny Kruger. And if anyone's actually interested, as I'm reading this, if anyone's interested, you can actually go into YouTube and put in Danny Kruger, a message about Christianity and culture. And it's a beautiful message. It's even if you're not from England, it will speak. It will speak really straight to the heart of where you are in your town and where your school. I think it speaks to everybody. But so he delivers this message in the House of Commons, which, if you don't know, it's a group of people who are members of parliament who are serving the UK government, and they act as voices for people in different parts of the country. And they speak about different issues, trying to create solution. And so he's basically, Danny Kruger's coming into the House of Commons, and he is talking about the issue of Christianity in culture. And that England is historically is a Christian country founded on Christian values, and England has created some of the most incredible men and women of the faith, like William Wilberforce, who led the movement of the abolition of the slave trade. And some of the hymns that we sing all around the world have come from like British people who have been hymn writers. And so there's such a rich culture of faith in England that it's like a deep well of faith. And at this point right now in history, we're seeing in England that there's a separation of the church and state. If we look back historically, every time that's happened, there's been total chaos. And so he's basically saying this is why we should not separate the church and the state. Here's why it's not a good idea. But it's basically a call for a new restoration and for the UK to return to its Christian values. And so he says, this is a quote, he says, "A wind is blowing, a storm is coming, and when it hits, we are going to learn if our house is built on the rock or sand."
Wow.
The strong gods are back, and we have to choose which God to worship. I suggest we worship the God who came in weakest form, Jesus Christ.
Wow.
And
wow.
It's so, and even what he says in that message too, he says God is a jealous God. So he's not even just saying, our country should be built on Christian values. We should serve the community. He's saying, actually, this country should be built on Christ, not just the values.
Not the values, but on Christ.
And he speaks, and just lastly, just to wrap up, sorry, I'm talking for ages, but he speaks about these two things. He says thin religion and thick religion. So thin religion is a country built on just the values and just trying to do the right thing, and just going to church once a week. That's thin, that's brittle, it breaks when the winds come and the storm comes. That breaks, doesn't it? But the thick religion, he's saying, is people who genuinely believe that Jesus, he died on the cross, he was beaten, he was marred beyond human resemblance. He died on the cross for our sins, because we're all sinners and we couldn't do it by ourselves. He died on the cross, he was buried, and he rose again. And in his resurrection, we have eternal life and hope. And so you've got these people now. We're living in a time where they're preaching the gospel in the House of Commons, and they're bullied for it and teased for it and mocked. But it's like these seeds are being sown. And so when the storm comes, I just believe there's going to be fruit in our country. We're going to see so much fruit because of these people who are so faithful,
great.
like Danny Kruger.
So great, Maisey. Okay, friends, real talk. When life gets busy, the first things to go are usually the things that really matter. Maybe you're juggling classes, social stuff, work, maybe even a relationship, and before you know it, you're endlessly scrolling without thinking and crossing lines that you said you wouldn't. That's where Covenant Eyes comes in. Their Victory app is such a game changer. It helps you stay accountable with your screen time by monitoring your screen activity and sending reports to an accountability partner that you choose. Someone who can actually call you higher, not let you slip into patterns that don't align with who you're called to be. And this is not about guilt or shame. This is truly about freedom and healing and protecting your relationship with God, even when life is moving fast. I love the verse so much where it says, confess your sins to one another and you will be healed. Friends, that's what we want, right? This is not about staying in the same place you've always been. This is about actually finding freedom and finding healing. And I think that one of the first steps to that is actually having accountability and confession. And so this might be your chance to actually get free on some stuff you've been struggling with. I can't recommend Covenant Eyes enough. Go to covenanteyes.com/Sadie to learn more and start your journey towards freedom today. That's covenanteyes.com/Sadie. There's so many things I want to say about what you just said, but one thing I want to shout out and just make it personal to those who are listening. A country is made up of individual people, right? Yeah. And so like, it's got to be what the people bring. And I think so many times we think, oh, if our government would do something about that, if someone would do something about that, I wish, some crazy revival would break out. But it's like, it starts with you. Yeah. Revival starts with you. You're a part of the change. Right. And so you have to ask yourself, like, do I have thin faith? Do I have thick faith? So everyone has to look at their life and say, like, nothing's going to change until my foundation is Christ, until I catch fire, until I repent and come to the Lord. And I think one thing that I love about you so much is how deeply personal you take what's happening in the world around you. Like following the tears, it's that prayer, like, break my heart for what breaks yours, Lord. And when you break my heart for it, I'm actually going to like go and be a part of the change. And I love how you said, like, I went back home, and all of this is attached to your going back home because you're realizing there's a problem. There's a lack of faith. I'm a believer, I'm on fire. I want to go be a part of the change and the work that you do. Not everybody knows what you do, but you are in that change. And I think everyone has to realize, like, they have to take the gospel personally. You have to take your relationship with God personally. You have to take the things that are going on in the world, the darkness, personally, and realize that it's your job to respond. Yes. And I think too many people just go, hope somebody does that. But it makes me think of Nehemiah. You make me think of Nehemiah because his heart broke for what broke the Lord's. He was like the weeping prophet. He would cry about what was happening to Jerusalem. Yeah. And he was a cupbearer of the king, like not the guy you would have thought was about to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. But yet his heart broke for it. And he was positioned beside the king. And so what did he do? He used what he had, where he had it, his influence. And he began to, talk to the king about the problems going on in Jerusalem. And then he was able to go back and rebuild the walls, but he didn't do it himself. Like, there was an army of individual people who also took on the personal responsibility to use their gifting to grow the kingdom. And that story makes me think so much of both of you, but particularly with what you just shared, you going back. And I love that you said I went back home, because you started it by saying, I don't know what home is, but that's home. And I think that's really cool too, because home is, I was thinking about this the other day when I was talking about being in London, and I said, and then we went back home, and I was like, to the hotel. Because for me, I've taught our girls this since we travel a lot. I always tell them, like, home is wherever we are. So if we're together, we're home, and I feel that. I feel such a sense of home when we're together. And so it's sweet because I'm like, oh, we went back home. It doesn't matter like where we're staying. Like, and I know this is home. Obviously, we're planted in Louisiana. We're so grateful for that. We have our home here. But also, I want our girls to feel that like safety of like wherever we go, like there's a sense of home. And I think home is where you're called to be at that time. 100%. If you're called to be in London at that time, even if your family and your house is here, that's home right now. If we're called to be in London for 2 weeks, which is such a small amount of time, but I'm like, let's make this feel as much like home as we can. And it's because this is where we're called to be, right here, right now. And so just to encourage those who are listening, you might feel like, man, I want to feel that sense of home. I want to feel that sense of grounding. And I think there are places, obviously, that you get to plant roots. But if you're not in that season yet, where you can't establish roots, I do think you can create an environment of home to feel confident in where God's placed you. Emily, I want to talk to you because when we were in London, we get to have lunch. And what is so cool, the way we met is I needed a babysitter for Honey and Haven because I wanted them to feel like home. I wanted them to have fun while I was doing work. And so I was like, man, it would just be so great if someone could come watch them and make it fun. And Maisey recommended you. And you were like, well, I do social media full time now, so I have time.
I have free time.
And whenever I did a Zoom call with you, you were like so cute. You were were wearing this sweatshirt. It was like, I love Jesus. I can't remember what it said. It was something like that with your cute little blouse over it. And you were just like asking me if they knew about these toys in London, all this stuff. I was like, she is going to make this so fun. And you did. You blew me away. I was like taking videos of all of the little things that you created for them, the space you created. So your heart is just so beautiful. But I was so thankful we got to have lunch for a bit. Yeah. And you were telling me that there's not many influencers in London who are sharing their faith. And you were actually kind of telling me about what a typical influencer in London looks like. Yeah. And I want you to speak to that, because here in America, there's a lot of influencers who are Christians and sharing their faith. Like, that's a very popular thing, which is amazing and so great. But people, like, I want you to wrap your mind around what you're doing. Here it's common. There it is not common. No. So talk about how God began to call you into that and what culture looks like in that area.
Honestly, I did not want to really do that a whole life. I wanted to be a farmer growing up. I can milk cows. I can shear sheep. I would go and like work on farms up north in Lancashire in England, which is like up north. And I would spend my half terms going and doing work experience on farms. And my dream, I remember I used to go out onto fields and I would feel like David and I would pray out like, Lord, would I end up in these fields? Would this be where you bring me to? And I remember someone actually giving me a word when I was like around 15, which is when my heart was for farming. And she was like, I see you as a David. And she was like, but David was the shepherd, but he was actually then brought out to be a king and he had to influence people. And I remember being like, that is not my thing. I grew up with, Maisey and I talk about this, I didn't have friends growing up. And we didn't really have good friends. I was bullied all the way through school. I used to wear wellies to school, those rain boots, because I wanted to be a farmer so bad. I would do gardening in my lunch breaks at school because I wanted to be outside so bad. I was just like that weird kid that everyone thought was really strange and like very, very uncool. And so when I remember someone saying to me, like, I see you as a David, yes, you're in the fields right now, but he's going to bring you out into leading. I was like, that's not for me. And I actually said, I remember saying like something along the lines of like, I really love that you speak to people like that, but I actually don't think that word's for me. And I got given that word at nearly all the time. I would be at a church conference or I'd be at church or I'd be at a youth group and someone would say, I see like leadership over your life. And I'm a really shy person, like with crowds. Like I have the most insane stage fright you've ever met, like of someone you've ever met in your life. Like
that's so surprising.
Even like speaking in front of like 15 people, I would like my heart. I'd be like, oh my gosh, like even coming on here, I was like sat and my foot was shaking and I was like,
that little,
stop
I can tell when she's nervous.
I literally shook and I was like, stop shaking your foot. There's a couple of people in here and that made me nervous. And I'm like, every time someone would say to me, I see this leadership call in your life, I'd say, that's really kind, but I actually don't think that's for me. And I used to always say to people like, oh, people always give the same words to everyone. They always say you're going to be a leader. And my friends would be like, I didn't get that word. And I'd be like, no, they'll give it to you. Every Christian, I always call you a butterfly that's going to bloom. You're a flower that's in the field that the Lord sees. And you're a leader. And you're a leader. One. Like, I feel like those are the three things that people would say. And so then I just would reject it. And then I was working at a jewelry stand actually for my friend Annika. She's an amazing company called Recognize. And in it, their company, the whole point is they recognize people. And she said to me, Emily, this is so weird, but I think you're going to influence so many people with your life. And I remember being like, oh, that's a different way of saying it, influence those people. And I really respected her. And I looked at her as like, she's this amazing businesswoman who started a company that, you know, gives back to people with like what they do with their charity work. And I was like, wow, you're like an amazing woman of God and you're telling me I'm going to influence people. Like, that's really big. I remember being like, oh, thanks, Annika. Like, people have always said that I'm going to do leadership stuff, but that scares me. And she was like, well, you know, pray about it. Like, I think you are going to influence people. And I'm still wanting to be a farmer. So I'm like, in the fields, I'm going to influence all the sheep. And then I actually had deleted Instagram because I felt it was all fake. And so, you know, I did the cool kid thing and I deleted it. I was like, goodbye. I was like 19. I was like, goodbye, Instagram. And then a few years later, I felt the Lord be like, in worship, I just kept hearing, get Instagram. I'm like, you know, people always say, measure up what the Lord's saying to you based on what the Bible says and like how he speaks in the Bible. And I'm like, in the Bible, it does not tell you seek validation, seek followers, seek da-da-da. So I was like, this doesn't seem like the Lord. It's just my head. I want an excuse to download it. and see what everyone's up to. And I just literally, every worship time I'd hear it and I'd be like, I think I have to get Instagram back. And I remember I downloaded Instagram and I put the most cringe thing up. I took a photo of me holding flowers in a field and I literally posted the thing being like, Jesus loves you, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, that's it. That's what I'm meant to be doing. And then I just felt from the Lord be like, I want you to post joyful, fun things for your friends and family. And I was like, okay, he's not telling me to try and be an influencer and puff up my lips and, move to LA. This sounds fine. So I'd literally start posting for a while. Just literally, if you scroll down, they're literally just videos of me being like, here's my outfit and like, here's what I'm doing. And then it came to February 2 years ago and I felt the Lord say, I want you to post every day till June. And I'm like, what? My friends and family are going to think I'm a freak. Like, why would they want, no one wants to see me on their For You page every day. I do it, whatever.
Fall is such a great time of the year for bonfires in the backyard, cooler nights, and just slowing down a little bit and enjoying life. And to do all that, AGZ is my go-to. AGZ is AG1's nighttime drink built for restorative sleep. It is free of melatonin. It's dairy-free, it's gluten-free, and there's no added sugars and artificial sweeteners. Instead, it is made with research-backed herbs and minerals that help you wind down into a natural sleep. Fall nights were made for chilling by the fire, drinking my warm chocolate AGZ. The other flavors are chocolate mint and mixed berry, which are also super solid. And the best part is waking up the next day actually feeling refreshed and like I got a good night's sleep. So if I'm really wanting something to wind down before bed, like I said, I have 3 kids now and it's just so sporadic. It's all over the place. Me and Sadie are trying to spend time together. And if I want a good night's sleep and if I want to start the wind down process early, AGZ has been such a game changer for me. Sometimes at night I have a hard time falling asleep. AGZ has been something that has really been helping me. It tastes delicious. I like something that has a chocolatey taste before I go to bedtime, and I know that that this is going to set me up for success at nighttime, but also it's going to help me in the morning. I'm going to wake up feeling refreshed, which is what I need to be a good husband and a good father. And yes, especially because most of the days can be chaotic. And since AG1 has been a sponsor for years, I got to try AGZ right when it was released, and it has already been such a part of my nighttime routine as AG1 is in the morning. So if you are listening to this and if you are ready to turn down the stress and focus on the rest, head to drinkag1.com/whoa to get a free frother with your first purchase of AGZ. That is drinkag1.com/whoa.
And then it was funny because the same girl, Annika, so it gets to June, I've been posting every day, nothing's happened, no followers. And Annika says to me, Emily, I feel like in the next few weeks, you're going to be leading thousands of people. And I was like, what? And I'm thinking, oh no, someone's going to make me go on stage for something. Because I'm thinking leading. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go on stage. I'm so freaked out. I remember I had this crazy, for genuinely 2 weeks, it was like my heart would not stop beating for 2 weeks. Because she said in the next few two weeks, I remember I looked up online what events are happening and like avoid every church setting possible. Like I'm not going, no one's pulling me up on stage because I get up there. And then it was funny because the next day at church, I felt the Lord give me this idea for a video, which is so far I've been making very mediocre, not videos you probably would follow, but for friends and family, pretty fun. But this felt like an executed video. Like it was where I would put one outfit on and then I turn it into 4 outfits. I was like, that's a planned video. That's like something I have to set up and think about. And I was like, okay. And I really felt the Lord say it. And I was like, but I was too overcome by my nerves for what was going on over here, this word, that I was like, no, I didn't even think about it. So I forgot about doing the video for about 2 weeks. And then I was in worship at church and I felt the Lord give me the idea again. I went, oh, I forgot about that idea. So I go home and I film the video and the next day I post it. The next day is 2-week mark and I wake up and I have 20,000 followers.
Wow.
And I remember I literally woke up and I had chills and I went, oh, I'm going to lead thousands of people. I've just led thousands of people.
Wow.
On social media. And like, it was like crazy because he's planned this. And I remember I got a few DMs being like, I'm so glad you've got loads of content for me to like stalk and stuff. And I was like, he told me to post every day till June. And it was like, oh, he like planned this whole thing out. Like he knew that girls would want to stalk me and have stuff to follow and they would want to like see more outfits. And it was like, he teased things up perfectly.
Yes.
And like you said,
yes.
Any door he opens, no man can shut. Any plan he's got, no man can put away. And like he had a plan for me to lead thousands, and not a way that he obviously knew that I would be too scared to get up on a stage and talk to these girls, but he knew that I'd be totally fine. Because in my head, it's just a number. It's like posting a video and numbers see it. But actually, those are individual girls.
Yeah.
And I don't get stage fright when I post on Instagram. And he knew that. And by the end of that summer, it was my full-time job. And it was crazy. It's like what the Lord can do through one yes. And like, even though you might be scared or like whatever, I was scared thinking about the word that someone had given me, but actually he was doing something completely different. And I made an assumption of God that he was going to do one thing. And he was like, oh, I'm not over there. I'm all the way over here doing something that I know that you can do. I've prepared you and I've made you confident for this mission. And it's crazy because then a few months later, I was like at a church event and I was like, they said on stage, whatever you're doing in your job, you should be leading people to Jesus. And I was like, this is now my new job. And like you were saying, it's very different, the influencer space in London. I'd been doing it for a few weeks then, months then. And that's like, you go to a lot of events in London, like there's always events. And you know, these events, there's lots of drinking. Here's everything we can give you. Like, oh, you want the bag you have the bag. You want a new jumper? You have this jumper. They like want to impress you. Like every brand wants you to have everything you want so that you might post a story about them, so that you might give them a little bit of, you know, encouragement, like, oh guys, I love this brand. And so I was going to events every single day, like, and you'd show up and everyone is absolutely obliterated drunk. Like everyone is being given everything they want. Like you get given a full outfit of clothes, and so that in your stories you're wearing the brand. You get given a drink the minute you walk in. There's food, and then everyone wants to take your picture. And you almost for a minute touch like it's like a god. Like you feel suddenly like, I'm so important. I'm so valuable. These people think I'm so worthy of their attention. And whenever I read about in the Old Testament, when they look up at the mountains and they would say, you know, in the Psalm where it says, look up in the mountains, where does my help come from? He was saying that because when he looked up in the mountains, every mountain had a temple to a different god. And so he was looking up going, I look up to these mountains. I can't get help from these mountains. These gods are fake. These are idols that I look up to. My help comes from the Lord. Wow. And I feel like with Instagram, we have the same thing. I look out into my Instagram profile. Where does my help come from? Yeah. And I felt the Lord say, when I was at church and they were saying, you should be, you know, your job where you're working, you should be bringing people to Jesus, the people you're working with. And I was like, I don't have anyone I work with. I work in my room and I post an outfit video. How do I tell these colleagues of mine, who essentially everyone who follows me is essentially my boss? They've all given me a job, they've given me a platform, and how do I tell them about Jesus? And so I was like praying about this, and then the Lord gave me the idea of show people what it's like inside a church building, but in your niche, and my niche is fashion. So I started doing these what people wear to church videos, what people are wearing at Christian festivals, what people wear at LO Sister Conference. Like, you know, I for a few years now I've been doing what people wear at church videos, and it's become a ministry for me, like a ministry that I would never have ever, when I was in the fields picking up lambs to give them milk, never did I think I would be filming what people wear to church videos. I used to wear overalls covered in sheep muck. Like I used to milk cows and they're above you and you have to wear a waterproof jacket in case they poo on your head. Like I've gone from that, being a bullied girl who no one in school thought was cool. I was bullied so bad for being the weird kid at school, to being the person that people follow and people look to for advice and fashion. Like, how have I gone from raincoat with poo on to wearing cool clothes that people call me cool, and I'm like shaking in my boots like, no, I'm the bullied girl. Like, but only the Lord can take that girl and make her the person that leads people. Wow. And
that's so the Lord, though. It's so what you see in the Bible. It's David. It's literally David's story. And that was spoken over you so many times. Yeah. There is so many aspects of your story that you can learn from and pick up on from the obedience. I mean, I think about you doing that for 6 months every single day, and you had to have felt embarrassed. Like,
it was so embarrassing.
Yeah, but the Lord said do it, and you did it. Yeah. And I can just think of so many girls who have started something thinking the Lord said it and then got discouraged month 3 going, well, this isn't working. Why am I doing this? Nobody likes it. This is weird. Stops. And then misses out on like the whole point, you know? Like, I don't want to put pressure on people to say, oh, you're going to mess it up. I don't think that God works like that. God is so kind, so gracious. If you messed up in the past, you didn't obey in the past, get back on today. Like, say yes. Ask the Lord to speak to you again. You haven't messed up the path for your life, so don't hear that. But how beautiful when you are obedient. And at that 6-month mark, at that 2-week mark, you post that video, not doing it because you thought it was going to get thousands of views, doing it because the Lord said to do it.
It's just God's idea.
And then everyone's looking back at all your past posts. So those didn't go to waste. That wasn't a wasted time. That's what it looks like when God's working in those waiting seasons of your life. And so much of that story is just so amazing. And I think about too, even from the start, you said something that I really want to call out, because you're talking about as a Christian, the Lord calling you to social media and you being like, God doesn't call me, you know, to be validated. Like, God doesn't put in the Bible. And I really do think that the enemy uses kind of those voices in people's life to stay away from social media, because the enemy can use it like that. Like, it can be such a dark place. If your heart's not pure, it can be for validation. It can certainly be that. But even in David's story from the start, he says, man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. That's what he says to Solomon, who's going to look for the king. And I think about that where, man might have their idea. They might misunderstand. They might do whatever. But God's looking at the heart. And although God does not say you should have Instagram, Jesus does say you're the light of the world, you know, not to hide your light, but to actually let it shine. And I love even the verse for Paul. This has been one for me that I've taken and use it in the context of social media. It's whenever he says, imitate me as I imitate Christ. Like, it's not, don't look at me. It's actually, no, I invite you to look at my life as I imitate Christ. And I think if you feel confident that you're walking in a life of obedience, life of Christ, and willing to say when you're not, willing to repent and go, oh, y'all, I messed it up, you know, and I've had to do that on social media a lot of times. That welcomes people into what it looks like to follow Christ.
Absolutely.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. I think that too many people steer away from that because they're afraid of what people are going to think of them. But it's like, no, like, Christians need to be in that space. And I think that I actually do think the Lord calls us to that. And there's so many places in the Bible, again, if that's your thing, you know, if that is what he's calling you to. And I love how you said, like, I use my little niche of fashion and then I do that in the church. And that's the point. That's the Nehemiah story. It's you use what you have. I love reading the story of Nehemiah because it's all these people coming together with their gifting and then they do something incredible together, you know?
And
it's so beautiful.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
I thank God. I mean this. I thank the Lord that Emily and I were not the cool girls growing up, because that was God's providence. That was actually was His mercy to us. That was His kindness. Don't you think that was His kindness? Because I think our history with God is so important. And if there's any girls right now listening, think I'm not the cool girl. I will never be the cool girl. That's actually a gift in your life. That's the greatest gift. That's the greatest gift. And I think out of that place, your whole life you'll realize, like, I pray that our whole lives Emily and I will realize and know it's the things that happen, the places God invites us to go, isn't because we're the cool girl. Isn't because of what we've done or who we are. It's literally the grace of God. He's the one opening the door. And Emily and I were talking earlier, we weren't made to romanticize our lives. That's a lie. We've been sold. We're meant to lay them down. So even if, you know, girls who are called to what Emily is doing and how Emily does what she's doing, I see someone who's not romanticizing their life. She's laying it down. She's always thinking, how can I use this for the glory of God? If God's given this to me, how can I use it for His glory? But not even just doing things for Him, but with Him. And, you know, being lonely and being bullied, you learn how to. The scriptures say, God, He's my hiding place. Your hiding place, your refuge. And if you live out of that place, God's never going to let your feet stumble. Though you will have hard days, His promise, He will not let you stumble. He won't let you fall.
And those days actually make you. They make you who you are, and they develop your relationship with the Lord. I think about my I think it was going to sophomore year of high school. All my friends trying out for cheerleader, and I was like, okay, I'll try out to be a cheerleader too, so we could all hang out. It'd be so fun. Guess who the only person who didn't make it was? Me. And it was actually so brutal because only like 33 girls tried out. I still remember 28 made it. I was like one of the 5 that did not make
Could have
it.
been a sub.
I could have been a sub. They could have tapped me in. They never did. They never called. It's fine. But what was
That's
actually
genuinely so hard.
no, it actually really was very hard and embarrassing because, the whole school knows who makes cheerleader and who doesn't. And I remember one of the hardest parts, though, was whenever they all got to go to cheer camp. It's like in Florida, and it's like all my best friends, but I didn't get to go because I didn't make the team. And you know what's so interesting is like God was teaching me so much during that time. Like I really had to like really work that out with him. And what was cool was I was sitting at home and I felt like the Lord put on my heart to encourage them because they were talking about like how hard cheer camp was and everything. And of course I'm like wishing I was there, but I was like, okay, what can I do to like be a part of this? And so every day I made funny videos, just myself. They were so embarrassing. Now looking back, I don't even know. It's funny, but the Lord put it on my heart. I wouldn't have known it was the Lord at the time though, but it was. And so I recorded myself doing funny videos and I would send them a video a day at cheer camp to like make them laugh. And now, like at 28 years old, making cheerleader is not a big deal to me, right? But God working in me and like who I was and what I could bring to the table and what, I could do was something so special. And I think about now, like I'm still making like funny videos to cheer people up, but like cheerleading is not a thing. And so I think like, God establishes who you are in those moments and teaches you like what's the thing that he put on your heart. And one thing I really love about the story for both of you guys is that when God put a word on your heart to do something, specifically it was social media. You didn't look at social media to teach you how to do it. You weren't going like, okay, how do the influencers do it? How do I meet the algorithms requirements? How do I, like, this is how I'm going to do it because this is how it's been done. You got with the Lord. And the Lord said 6 months, post a video every day. And the Lord put on your heart, do a video of you doing 4 different outfits. And that's why when you come to your page, people go, oh, this is unique. This is different. This is original. I want to follow this. Whereas so many people, the reason why trends look the same is because people are not getting with the Lord and saying, God, what do you want me to do? How do I walk this path that you've given me? What does it look like for me to be original in a world? I'm in the world, not of the world. What does it look like for my originality to be the light of the world? And then you get to do something that no one's ever seen before and people gravitate to it. For you, going back to London, you could have been like, okay, I'm just going to go to London. I'm just going to do whatever. What's everybody else doing? But it's like, Lord, what do you have for me in London? How am I going to stand here, even if I don't feel qualified for this job, and like do it with the best of my ability? And the Lord's graced you for it. And so I just encourage girls who are listening, like if God's put a word on your heart, if it's something that everybody does and it's more like social media, or if it's being a nurse, or if it's being a teacher, whatever it is, like ask God, like, how can my originality come through in this space? Because that is going to bless people in so many ways. And it's going to show God, it's going to show you how personal God is in your story. Because I love how you both can look back and go, whoa, that was God. I want to wrap this up, Maisey, by you, if you don't mind sharing, because I know it has been a hard move, but when you were standing on that golden place at the center point, you didn't realize that was the center point. Like, can you just share how the Lord, again, because I feel like when you do things that only you and God know and pray about, then when God blesses you back, he saw you, 100%. He heard you. And that's when that relationship becomes so personal. So I'd love to end on that story.
Oh, it'd be my honor. I think also when I was younger, there's something in us, we always want that confirmation of like, I just want to double check this is you. And I think it does talk about this in the Bible, but that we shouldn't chase after those words and confirmations. But when they come, it is so beautiful. You cannot make it up. And it's a gift from God. So if you're also in a season where no one is giving you a word at church, you don't have that confirmation, don't be discouraged. Because God's grace is like a river. It's in every single day, and he's going to give you the right things to remind you, I'm with you, I'm for you, I've got plans to prosper you and not harm you, to give you hope in the future. So even as I'm sharing the story, and you're still waiting on that, I believe it's on its way. And it's so intentional, exactly how God knows how he made us. He knows how we receive. And I just know he's going to encourage you right where you're at. But when I first got to England, I had a lot of people saying to me, oh, we can't wait to have you over for dinner. We can't wait to invite you back. And then when I moved, it was an interesting time for me because it was almost like crickets. The people who said they were going to invite me over didn't. And the people who said they were going to walk with me, they didn't reach out. And so it was a confusing time. It felt really disappointing. And so one of my main prayers was actually with my parents. I prayed with them both that God would bring the right on time people, at the right time, not in my timing, but I had believed that there are people, and actually God's got new family for me. I'm so blessed to have old family, but God's bringing new people and new families as he's doing a new thing in my life. So I ended up meeting a family at Emily and I's church called St. Paul's Hammersmith. And if you're ever coming to London, you should definitely come through. But we met a lovely family there who host something called a Shabbat meal, which is a traditional Jewish meal to mark the Sabbath, beginning of the Sabbath. And you sit around the table. It was actually just all people our age. Yeah. And we sat around the table, and it's traditional. At that table, there's lots of symbolism which remind us of God's promise and what the scriptures say. So you light a candle and you remember that Jesus is the light of the world. And then There's a few
adaptations because we're Christians.
Yes. Sorry, that's a good point to say that it was led by a Messianic Jew, so it was all about Jesus. And then we traditionally the husband and the wife, they would bless the people around the table, and so we ended up just blessing each of the person who was next to us. So we were all pretty much. I mean, I didn't know anyone at that table apart from two people. The guy next to me, I'd never met him before. He prayed a blessing over me. I prayed the blessing over the person next to me. And then after he had prayed that blessing, we were eating the meal around this table. And this guy said to me, I had this picture of you. It was so clear. You were standing in the middle of Trafalgar Square, which is right by where I work. And you were standing on this golden plaque. And if you look up the centre of London geographically, it will take you to this plaque, to this one point. That's the centre of London. And he said, I want to tell you that God's brought you to England for such a time, and he has you in the centre of his will. So remain in the centre of his will, just as you stand. He said, I saw you standing in the centre of London, and that's a reminder that you are in the centre of God's will.
Wow. Yeah.
And then that was at a point where I had gone for a walk for my lunch break. I was just walking to the bank to set up my card. And I was asking God, I know you brought me here. I don't know fully yet why, but I know that you have. Yeah. And I was walking, and it was so weird. I just stopped in Trafalgar Square, right at this point, right by this golden plaque. I didn't know at the time it meant that it was the centre of London. I stood at this golden plaque, and I looked out, and I just started crying. God, this was such a big move, and I'll never be able to explain to anyone else what it's like, but I know that that I miss my family, and I feel so out of my depth in so many ways. But I know I don't have a shadow of a doubt that I'm supposed to be here. I know I'm supposed to be here. Yeah. And so it was just a moment when he said that of, oh my word, that would have been so beautiful.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't have stood in Trafalgar Square a couple of weeks ago. But because I had, I felt so seen by God. And so
that is so
that's
cool.
one of those things where you step out of your comfort zone and you're like, actually, I don't feel that faithful right now because I've got lots of questions. Yep. That's the God we serve. He allows us to petition to him. 70% of the Psalms, it's not just a happy book. 70% are questions and lament. And actually, the more that we talk to God, we were made to do that. We start to become in the center of his will. Because we're not just trying to do things for him, but we're doing it with him. Actually, my mum says to me, live life in the plural. It's not just Maisey wakes up and she goes to school, or Maisey wakes up and she goes to work. It's Maisey wakes up with Jesus. Maisey goes on the tube with Jesus. Jesus walks Maisey into work. They do it together. And so when he said that to me, it wasn't even just like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be here. No, our God is with us. Emmanuel, he is with us. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. He's with us.
Great.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. One time a security guard told me, and I love this because he was talking about how he had to go through so many scary things, like as a security guard and as a police officer, like he would have to run into the most dangerous places. And he told me one thing that changed his life was he read this book and it said the safest place you can be is in the center of God's will. And it gave him so much peace because he realized even if I'm in dangerous places, if I'm in the center of God's will for my life, it's the safest place I can be. And that has blessed me so much over the years, like just going to different places and doing different things with anxiety of like the safest place I can be is in the center of God's will. I think not only the safest place, but like the most important place, like even if you're in the 6 months of doing something that no one's watching, you know, or if you're moving somewhere and you haven't felt that confirmation as far as like nothing's blown you away yet, you're not getting invited. Like when you're in those spaces, if you know you're in the center of God's will, then you have peace in it. You know, it's like I might not feel great about it right now. Might not feel good, but I have like this deep confidence that this is like God is with me and it changes everything. You guys are so incredible. I'm so blessed by y'all's friendship and sisterhood. I'm like, only God could, you know, you be from all over the world, but originally London, and you be from London, me be from Louisiana, and we all have like this commonality in Christ. It's so beautiful.
We're not just soul sisters. Like it's not like we have our sweet girly moments, but I say to Emily, and I feel this way about you as well, we're sword sisters. Like in nature, the lionesses, they don't hunt in the day, they hunt in the night. That's God's design, and they don't do it by themselves. They actually go together. The lionesses, they arise, they gather, and they go in the darkness.
Beautiful.
So we were made for that. The darkness is not dark to him. So the darkness shouldn't be dark to us.
It's beautiful.
And we're meant to, this is the time to arise and gather and go into the darkness together. We shouldn't be afraid.
Come on with that word. That's great. Y'all, I just encourage everyone who's listening, follow along on their socials, cheer them on. If you're in London, I hope y'all connect and we can have some more sisterhood going on in London. But truly, follow them along. Emily has a podcast, Ribs and Knits, right? Check it out.
It is beautiful.
You're going to be so encouraged by it. It makes me laugh, but it's also so good. Like you teach in the word, girl. It's so beautiful. But thank y'all for being here. It's a blessing.
Thank you so much for having us.
We love this sisterhood. We're all so blessed.